Hello, I am Tessa Buchanan.
And I am Susie Cavill.
We're both NSI trainees based at City Art Centre in Edinburgh. NSI enables those within the BAME communities in Scotland to acquire the knowledge, skills, attitudes and values necessary to shape a sustainable future within museums and galleries.
Welcome to this podcast where we are looking at ways that we can explore how people can interact with museums from an online perspective. Even though we don't expect to be under lockdown forever, we can learn from this time and develop richer online resources for an audience to engage with in the future. Collections pose a challenge to us because we can't handle physical objects right now, but museums have been asking for items that represent people's experience of lockdown, and this became an inspiration for a more personal study.
What we hope this study will teach us about collections under lockdown is what connections people have made with items in their house, what has gained new meaning, and how do we reach out to an audience when we are physically distanced, but more than ever need to be socially connected.
Some museums have always had a virtual presence, a digital twin, as it were, of the real-life site. For example, the Charles Dickens Museum at www.dickensmuseum.com has an interactive tour using the same technology that estate agents use to showcase homes for sale. A 3D capture process takes unlimited snapshots from every angle and then turns it into an immersive 3D walkthrough. Other museums have gotten even more creative. Second Life is an online virtual world launched in 2003 that has 3D virtual environments created by its community, which makes it quite experimental and bold in its execution of online environments. Loading Second Life. The United States Holocaust Memorial Museum have created a digital space in Second Life, which is a sensory tour of a dark street in Nazi Germany in 1938, the night of the Kristallnacht raids against the Jews, this being the turning point of focus of the Nazi anti-Jewish policy that was leading to the Holocaust. The design of the streets reflect that night, with shards of broken glass on the floor that give the night its terrible name. Buildings that have been broken into, even posters and anti-Jewish slogans on the walls. As I walk into these buildings, I hear witness testimonies and the sounds of breaking glass. I feel as though I am there. Just for a moment, I feel scared.
Warum ist mir das passiert?
Es ist niemals zu spät.
Diese Nacht geht für immer weiter.
In this way, the museum is able to create something that goes further than just a digital twin. I've worked extensively in theatre, and one of the things that we try to do is suspend the audience's disbelief to create an atmosphere through visuals, sound, lighting, and words. This exhibition does just that. It's very unsettling at times, but it allows us to enter a different country and time and explore the experience of another culture through their eyes and ears. Even doing this project as a podcast, as it's harder to create video at this time, would force us to think about this in a much more sensory way.
So what can we learn from this research? I guess that it is immersive by design. It engages the senses and creates an experience. As a designer, I view the world by decoding how things are designed and questioning how it makes people feel interacting with it. Whether it's a pen, a building, or a virtual space, designing is all about experience. So how do we design experiences and not things? An example of this is I.M. Pai, an architect of some of the most beautiful museums in the world, including the Museum of Islamic Art in Doha. He was known to approach architectural projects by saying things like, "I can see a darkness leading to a light," followed by a sense of enclosure. He thinks about architecture as an experience, as a collection of possible experiences that are activated when people engage with it. So how can we engage an audience with objects without having access to touch and see them? What can we do to allow our audience to experience these objects? The BBC and MoMA had created a podcast which had leading creative thinkers choose an artwork and talk about it. I began by listening, and by the end of the first episode I had in my mind's eye what I thought the piece looked like. The context and the description of the piece was so vivid, I could see it and feel it. I was experiencing the artwork. Using our research as a guide for our podcast, we have developed a digital programme which aims to collectively experience an object chosen by someone from their house.
So we asked a simple question, which is, what object has been most significant to you in lockdown, and how have you been interacting with it?
First up is a good friend of mine, Riven.
So my object for this is the Nintendo Switch, which is a video game console. Most importantly, is actually a specific game for this that I have chosen to talk about called Animal Crossing. I think I bought the game just as lockdown was about to happen. I don't usually buy a lot of games because I find it easy to become quite engrossed in them and lose my reality a bit, and nothing else really gets done. But I figured that I would have a lot of time in my hands, and who really wants to live in the current reality anyway? It's a little sad to admit this, but I don't think my mental health would be nearly as good as it's been without this game during this time. The premise, in short, of Animal Crossing is you, the player character, are a human who lives on an island inhabited by various anthropomorphic animals, and you carry out various activities such as fishing, bug catching, fossil hunting. The game also simulates the real passage of time. So you contribute by giving back to the island, including doing activities such as landscaping. You donate your findings to the museum and other kind of wholesome activities. You also encourage in-game characters to become residents of your island. And these all have their own style and personality. Some can be pretty dull, but others can cause low-skill drama within the community. Also, you have to pay off all your home loans and various other living costs, so it's like the real world, except cute. My routine for this is I usually play it about twice a day, and I'll do this in the morning before work and evening. This is because it suits my working hours, but there are also different things happening in the game at different times. So for example, different bugs and fish come out at different times of the day and year as they would in real life. So in the morning I'll usually just do my daily chores in the game. So I collect fossils and I get them appraised, I go to the shop, see what's on sale, chop some wood, tend to some flowers, and maybe catch some fish if there's time. What's good about the game as well is it's also allowed me to meet up with my friends online. I think it was the first week of lockdown. One of my close friends had a birthday and we actually celebrated his birthday in the game, complete with a digital party poppers and a cake. You can also send letters in the mail to each other and trade objects with your friends. Another good thing is I've been learning about things that I don't think I would normally be interested in. I don't have a garden, but I've been repotting some houseplants. But on Animal Crossing, I have been able to tend to my turnips. I've been planting bushes and growing hybrids of my different flower breeds. I actually go outside in real life on my daily walk, and I've started noticing things that I would not usually sort of see in my daily surroundings. So different flowers, and kind of think to myself, oh, I wonder if this is this breed that I've learned about in Animal Crossing. It's also made me research different species of fish, such as the oarfish. It's a really rare fish and it's quite creepy and alien-like, and I caught that in the game. It's kind of hard to explain how relaxing the game is. I find that other games can make you feel on edge or stressed or frustrated when you can't complete a goal. But I've actually heard people say that for them this game is basically like therapy. And even though it's slow paced, you don't run out of things to do, there are limited time and seasonal events, and recent updates included an art gallery to collect art. and limited time tasks in celebration of Earth Day. Another cool thing is every Sunday a character will come to sell you turnips on your island. You can buy these to potentially resell at a higher value over the week. And so you're participating in the stock market, which is spelled STALK. And you can make potentially millions of the in-game currency. But if you don't get a good price, it's potentially all your money wasted. My friends and I have a Facebook chat group to compare prices and visit each other's islands in order to sell at a profit. The game's only been around for maybe 5 to 6 weeks, but people have racked up hundreds of hours of game time. Personally, I've played about 150 hours, but I know someone who's played over 275 hours. I heard of someone whose game became corrupt. She lost all of her progress. And honestly, if this happened to me, I don't think I'd be able to pick it up again. Just because I've worked really hard on my island and taken to learn how to craft different objects, to learn how to craft different objects, and lay out the structure of my island, and not to mention collect all the bugs, fish and fossils. So it would be quite heartbreaking to lose it. It seems I'm not the only one who feels this way. Nintendo are enjoying record numbers in the amount of people who have bought both the Switch and Animal Crossing. Other things that are great about it is you can just really make your island your own, and it's been great to see so many people being creative with it. There's tons of videos on YouTube, people coming up with new kinds of creations or games within the game, or just really beautiful island features such as parks, zen gardens, food markets, etc. Some can be quite wacky and out there. I've kind of seen some and wondered, are we even playing the same game? But it's nice that everyone can just be free of limitations to do what they want. You can also completely customize clothes to create realistic versions of you in the game, or choose to be someone completely different. I think what's also great is people who are not normally into games are into this, and there seems to be a huge range and different demographics of people playing. I know some guys who would consider themselves kind of hardcore gamers, and they're really into it, and I've read stories about people who are 9 years old and up to 45-year-old. My friend group seems to have an even split of men and women who play. What's important, I think, as well, is that everyone can go at their own pace. There are personal goals you can set, but there's no ultimate end goal or end of game. And because Nintendo have promised to keep releasing updates for at least 2 years, I think after lockdown ends, I will continue to play, although probably reduced hours and around real world socialising and events, maybe. And yeah, it's just provided me in this time with a lot of structure, because tasks to complete. It's given me an output to be creative at a time where I think I otherwise probably wouldn't feel like being creative. It enabled me to socialise. It's made me feel less lonely, and also just made me feel a sense of accomplishment and pride when I progress in the game. Yeah, I can just forget about the reality of the world for a while and do so, but through a medium where I don't feel as though my brain is switched off. Okay, thank you. That was my ramble.
My daughter plays Animal Crossing, and it's a way that she's been able to interact with friends that she's missing from school. I've been playing online games like World of Warcraft for about 20 years, and I often use them as a way to escape the house when actually I'm here without a garden. I can switch on the computer and I'm suddenly in a beautiful elven glade. There are studies about how our minds see online environments, especially Werner Wirth's A Theory of Spatial Presence, which talks about how players map a representation in their minds of the space that they're seeing in the game, and the brain brilliantly fills in the gaps. It's a sensory trick. Keeping the environment demanding through sound and visuals also keeps the brain busy, which is great for immersion, which in turn is great for engagement.
What I love about Animal Crossing is that it's such an interesting case of art imitates life. We see characters going about their daily routine with face masks, like our reality has influenced the design. And another thing I love is the freedom and access to represent yourself within it. In Animal Crossing, my friend is able to really be themselves and wear a hijab. It's so adorable. Also, Eid has just passed, right? And that's something we would all be celebrating together. But my friends were able to turn their room into a mini masjid. Can you believe that? And seriously, I love that stuff. We can connect and be together and really have like a virtual celebration even though we're physically apart.
That is so interesting about the hijab. Avatars that we can customize really key into a personal sense of identity, and they can represent not just who you are, but also who you want to be.
This is so true. And I think that this goes specifically for those who actually identify as non-binary, because Animal Crossing has clearly broken down the binary gender roles with their characters using a singular character model for all their players. Like, why can't we have a male presenting character wearing a dress or with long feminine lashes? Like, why not?
Exactly. It's about being who you want to be and being able to go anywhere and connect with others in the world virtually. There are virtual museums and games too, because my daughter visits the museum in Animal Crossing. That museum's got a real life natural history exhibit that she can contribute to, and she learns about fish and things like this. And I love how people can customize their own spaces, like you said. And this is something that could be seen as a cute game, but actually it's more meaningful and aspects of it are quite spiritual.
I mean, yeah, it gives us a safe space, and we can all say POCs and those within the LGBTQIA community needs a safe space right now, like mentally and physically. With everything that's happening around the world, it's becoming more and more apparent. Next is another friend of mine, Maha, who talks about a different type of environment.
So if I could put anything in a museum or a gallery that would represent my time in quarantine, I think it would have to be one of my plants. I've always loved houseplants and just plants in general. I don't have a garden, so having them indoors has been a really important for me. I think in general, caring for something during this time gives me comfort, but more important than that, keeps me busy. And because it's spring and coming into summertime, they're growing and it's possible to do more with them, like prune them, not sure what the word is, but to take cuttings and make more plants from the ones I have. I'm dreaming of giving some away as gifts, because for the ones that are having lots of little plant babies, I feel like I sound a bit crazy talking about them, but I just think during this time it's kept me busy. So for example, at lunchtimes, instead of going outside for a walk, or if I want to save my time outside for exercise, then I can go about. I can check if my plants need watered. If on the weekend I want to, again, feel a bit more connected to nature, and there's usually something or the other that needs repotted or changing topsoil, even though I'm doing it in my bathtub and in my bathroom, just getting my hands dirty and literally feeling the texture of the soil, and it makes me feel so much more connected to nature and a part of something that's growing and beautiful and something that I have control over, essentially. Yeah, I would put my plants in a museum. I also thought I'd address how my relationships change with them. I've always liked them, but they've more something that I do on the weekend, and I particularly have these memories of gardening in my bathroom being a real chore, because I didn't get time to do it very often, so I'd have to do everything in one go, so it wouldn't just be repotting something, it would be repotting 3 things and changing topsoil of all of them, and just by the end of it I'd be exhausted, my back would hurt, the bathroom would be a mess, and the house would be a mess. And it didn't really have the same enjoyment as it does now, where I can do it in little parts more often, and I can get more satisfaction from it rather than it being a chore. It feels more like a harmonious relationship, I'd say. I think I'm going to use them as well to show affection in some way, or show support and care, because it's summer and some of them are having lots of babies, or I can make lots of new plants from the ones I have. I've planted a couple small containers full of, I think it's called Purple Heart, Purple Queen, something like that. It's a lovely plant, creeper plant. It's really easy to grow, and I've put a couple of those in new pots. I'm going to let them settle in, and then I'm going to leave them out in the corridor by the windows and put a little note asking if anyone wants a new plant to feel free to take them. Just a little way to spread joy, and I just love the idea of gifting something and making something from having like this mother plant that's giving it lots of joy to lots of others.
This clip was really interesting because I think unless you're always used to being at home, this is probably the longest that most people have been confined to their home environment, and that's going to change their relationship to the object in their physical proximity.
In this case, Maha's plants have become a way to connect and a symbol of comfort to her. As we go on in our research, we will explore more of the objects that people are connecting with in their homes.
So in conclusion, what have we personally learned, and how do we think museums could benefit from this research? What I've learned from this is, in a situation where people cannot physically leave their homes, we see them wanting to enjoy their environment and feel connected with others, or with what brings them peace and joy. So a kind of relationship develops where online and real life start to merge. I think museums can really benefit from the understanding of the different ways that people are already doing this, and look at creating immersive virtual experiences, including ones that maybe allow people to connect with others on that journey. Virtual museums meditation date, anyone?
What I've learned is the intricacies and importance of designed environments, and that's essentially the definition of design, in my opinion. Making life better and providing joy. Museums, in a way, are an extension of a community centre, teaching, learning, collecting diverse stories, and most importantly, creating the safe spaces to do these things. We would like to thank Maha and Rowan for their stories,
and especially Laura Bennison and the staff at Museums and Galleries Edinburgh.
and Next Steps Initiative for their support in making this podcast.
Thank you.